Okay. So, because what I want to talk about for this week doesn't really have a lot of emotional response to it, it's more just my thoughts. There's really no use in going out and shooting stuff because there's not a lot to shoot. So this one's just going to be a lot of me talking, but because it's about video games, I figured I would film myself while I'm making a new Skyrim character because that's something I can do while I'm just talking. So, so I went to see 1917 over the weekend, which was fantastic. It was an amazing movie, but I was having a thought the whole time, which is that at certain times in the movie, all I could think was how much it felt like a video game. Not that it would be better as a video game per se, but it really felt like parts of it. So basically, and this is something that anyone who's seen the movie can tell you, is the CGI is not good. And the problem with that is that it's only there for a couple little parts of the movie, but when it's there, it's so noticeable that it pulls you right out. And my head goes to, well, the easy solution to that is either A, don't use CGI, which for the parts, for the things that they need it for, they needed CG. They couldn't just do it for real life. They couldn't throw an actor off a bridge. They couldn't train a live rat. Like, I mean, you can, but then you've got to fill out a lot of extra paperwork and you have to put a lot more people on staff. So, in my head, the easy solution is make the whole thing CG, which is basically just do it as a video game. Now, in reality, I wouldn't actually want to change that much because, for me, probably my favorite type of game, just to experience, not so much to play, is like a walking simulator type game, like Firewatch or What Remains of Edith Finch. Like games like that where it's really just objective and walk there. And I think that 1917 would play really well as that because it's not an adventure game. It's not like an exploration game. It's very much point A to point B style game. No need for a sandbox. No need for an open world. Nothing like that. Just tell the story as the story is. And like I said, the movie, like it would play very well in that respect. And I think that given that that's my one issue, I think it would be solved by that. And I think that it would be up there with some of the best video games ever made because it's such a fantastic piece of art. That said, I do have a couple reasons that I don't fully agree with that. Alright, well, now I actually have to be doing this, so I'll be looking it up. So basically, there's a couple reasons why, as much as I think it would make a fantastic video game, I don't know if that is the actual better way to go about making this particular piece of art. The first is that there's a couple of specific moments that would not play as well on a video game. Mainly the big climactic moment. It's from the trailers where he's running and the explosions are behind him, the main character, and he's running towards the camera. In a moment like that, you would want to be controlling the character. You would want to be running, but to be controlling the character running towards the camera just to get the visuals would be so transparently, we want to get the visual and we don't care about the player's actual player experience. And that would cause a lot of issues for a lot of players, and I completely understand why, and I would honestly be pretty annoyed by that. And that's like the big moment of the whole movie, and to take that out for the video game experience would kind of suck. Um, there's also the fact of the matter, which is that the reason why I kept thinking, oh, this looks like this reminds me of a kind of video game I'd like to play, is because a lot of the visuals are very reminiscent of those kind of games. Like there's a moment where he walks into like a town with like a fire, and so it's just the back of his head is silhouetted against the orange of the fire, and like all I could think was, I don't know which game I've seen this from, but I've seen this before. And I realized I have, but most of the people in this audience have never seen something like this before. And that's the thing, is that this is the kind of piece of art that was made with an intention of being seen and given to people. The whole point of 1917 being shot as like a one long take was for it to be as immersive of an experience as possible. And of course, the single best way to do that is through a video game. So by translating it from that film script to a video game script, it would fulfill that purpose in a much more all-encompassing way. And the idea of doing it as a single long take would be much more easily executed through a video game, because you can just do it. You don't have to do multiple takes. You just model it all as one continuous movement. So there's that. The thing is, if 1917 was a video game, it would be a lot like a lot of other video games. It would be I don't know, Firewatch with a Call of Duty skin over top of it. You know what I mean? There'd be a lot of things where, like, there'd be a lot of visuals and a lot of moments that would not stand out to a video game audience. Like, most video game audiences wouldn't even notice the fact, like, oh, it's one long take, because that's just what a video game looks like. And most of the awesome visuals would just be like, oh, that's whatever, I've seen a million things like that. I could see this really cool visual, or I could go play God of War and watch. I wish I could think of that. I'm so mad I can't think of the name of the giant snake, the world serpent. It's gonna bother me. I'll think of it later. But I think my heater's about to come on, so I'm gonna talk fast. I'm actually gonna turn it off. That's the thing, is that on the things that make 1917 impressive would make it run of the mill for any other video game audience, or for a video game audience. And I think that's why, as much as I think the issues with the movie would be fulfilled as a video game, I think that making it as a movie is ultimately the better choice, because if every gamer plays 1917, the video game, like, it gets amazing reviews, it becomes the most downloaded off of what, Microsoft and Steam and PlayStation Store, like everything. Like, it's the biggest game of all time. It's still not going to have the cultural impact of a movie, because not everyone plays video games, but most people will go see movies. And I think the whole point of this is that it's supposed to be experienced. So I think as much as I stand by the fact that it would probably make a better video game, I think that making it as a movie makes more sense, but that's not going to stop me from watching the movie and every time I get to those stupid CG rats thinking, this kind of sucks. Like, it's going to happen because stuff like that can only be solved by completely overhauling exactly what you're doing. So, at the end of the day, it was a toss up between the two mediums, which would be better off, and in my opinion, for the purposes of what Sam Mendes was trying to do with this film, I think that he probably made the better decision for his own purposes. In my opinion, which do I personally think would have made a better piece of art? I probably think a video game, because if your purpose is immersion, you need to be fully immersed, which means that things that pull you out of it, like bad CGI, that shouldn't be happening. So I think it comes down to intention. I think with his intention, film was better. For my intention, should I have made this movie, I think that doing it as a video game would have been better. But I mean, that just comes from the difference of artistic interpretation, honestly. Nonetheless, it's a good movie. Should it win the Oscar? No. Um, does that make it bad? No. Um, it's a good movie. It probably will win an Oscar because it's a war movie and they did in one take, which, don't get me wrong, it's amazing how they did that. But I don't think it was that much better than every other movie. It probably could have won Best Picture last year. I fully believe that. This year, I'm not that sure. So, alrighty. Yeah, I forgot. I should probably. Okay. There he is. Woo! Okay.